Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway and welcome to another review. Today, for the first time, I'm going to try a Hornby Railroad Plus locomotive. Over the years, I have tried plenty of locomotives from the Hornby Railways range. That is Hornby's main range where the locos are quite expensive and highly detailed. I've also tried lots of locos from the Hornby Railroad range, which is a cheaper budget range where the locomotives are simpler. However, I have never tried a loco from the Hornby Railroad Plus range, and as I understand it, this range is still railroad locos in their physical form, but they have an upgraded level of decoration, so they're decorated, painted like a Hornby Railways locomotive. But the problem is, I don't know whether I can trust this system because Hornby have a habit of blurring the lines between the Railways range and the Railroad range. Particularly if they think they can sell more models, they don't hesitate to put a railroad loco into the Railways range to make it seem more premium, which is naughty, and there's a couple of examples of that behind me. You've got the Hornby Class 92 there, and the infinitely terrible Hornby Class 66. Both railroad locos in my opinion, but both marketed as Hornby Railways locomotives. So are the Hornby Railroad Plus locos actually an improvement over the railroad range, or is it just another marketing gimmick? Is it just words to try and sell models? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that is to buy one. So here is a locomotive from the Hornby Railroad Plus range. It's a Class 47 and the full price for this is quite reasonable. It comes in at £96.99. Yet, presumably these still didn't sell even at that price because I managed to pick mine up from a retailer for £66, which is a massive discount. And if you are interested in checking out the Railroad Plus range, or this loco in particular, I will put affiliate links down in the description. I must say though, looking at the box, I already have my doubts about this, because nowhere on the box does it mention Railroad Plus. I kid you not on the end of the box, not on the front. This just looks like a Hornby Railroad box. Now think about that, if you went into a physical model shop and these boxes were lined up on the shelves, you would see these and you would not know that this was a Railroad Plus loco. This is just a railroad loco. Yet on hornby.com online, they add the term Railroad Plus and suddenly this seems like a more premium model. Something about that does not add up. This is just a railroad loco in a railroad box, but online it's marked Railroad Plus. Now, it could well be an improvement over the old railroad designs. It just seems odd that the product itself does not appear to be any different from the Hornby Railroad range normally. So I think what we need to do is get this out and take a look. We need to look very carefully at the decoration and the finish, of course, and really think about whether this is comparable to a more expensive Hornby Railways loco, or maybe even a Bachmann loco or an Accurascale loco, because that's kind of the level of decoration I'm expecting to see if I'm going to concede that this is a Railroad Plus loco and not just a railroad loco that has had an extra word added onto it to try and sell more units. Let's see. So, like I say, this appears to be just the standard railroad packaging. Same box as usual, with the window in the front, which allows you to see the locomotive. Obviously, not that long ago, I reviewed the Bachmann Class 47, and by comparison, the weight of this box seems to be incredibly light. But of course, Hornby haven't promised any physical upgrades to the model besides the decoration, so I'm still expecting this to be a very cheap, very simple railroad style locomotive in all aspects apart from its decoration. So we'll see. Let me show you the end of the box then. So the product code I have is R30080. It is a BR Class 47. It is Galloway Princess and it's number 47593. And as you can see, there is absolutely no mention of this being a Railroad Plus locomotive. So let's get this out and let's see what the decoration and the finish is like. I can already see through the front of the box that the decoration looks pretty decent. But what about the finish as well? That's another key component to loco decoration these days. So let's have a look at the manual here. So this is for the Class 47 Coco Diesel Electric. All right, body removal, what fun this looks. You got to pull the buffers out by the looks of it, and then hopefully pull the body out. It's got an 8-pin DCC socket on the inside and also an enclosure for a speaker by the looks of it. Replacing the body seems relatively straightforward, and then the basic lubrication points. Doesn't appear as though there are any accessories for you to add yourself, although I will take the loco apart so that you can see the innards, and sure enough, no accessories with this. Right, let's reveal the loco if possible then. See if I can overcome this tape. There would have been a time where I would have carefully sliced through this tape with my knife. Now I'm just yanking it out of position. Right, let's have a look. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell. I guess I'm not looking at the loco from above, which is normally how I get a good sense of the finish. So let's pull it out. Okay, yep, definitely. Yep, this looks great. The finish is fantastic. I'm not convinced by the quality of the paint. I can see some overspray / paint bleed between the blue body and the grey roof. But, you know, we see that sort of thing on Hornby's main range, so it's not as though this is any worse off than that particularly. Yeah, the roof in particular looks excellent. We've got extra detail picked out in the paint, which definitely does make this loco look a little more convincing. Does it make it look like the new Bachmann Class 47? No, that's a bit of a foolish question I asked. But for £100 or less, significantly less in my case, it certainly does improve the locomotive. Strange though, because obviously if you're selling these models online, you can put that they are Railroad Plus and that will draw people to the model. If you're a poor old model shop owner though, your customers are going to have no idea. Are you going to put up a sign? Or are you going to tell everybody that these are Railroad Plus locos? I don't know. It's just odd that they didn't bother to change the packaging in any way to let people know that these have been improved, because by the looks of it, yeah, they have been. So I'm going to weigh this. I'll let you know what it weighs, just for the lols, I guess. And then I'll show you some of the details up close, paying particular attention to the decoration. I will show you an older Railroad Class 47, I think I've got one, and we'll see how that compares. And I might even throw in the Bachmann 47 as well, just so that you can see what the differences are. First though, let's talk about the Class 47 in real life. The British Rail Class 47 was a numerous class of diesel-electric locomotives introduced in 1962. 512 examples were built in total over a period of 6 years, with the intention to use them to help replace all steam locomotives with diesel or electrics, which British Rail wanted to achieve by 1968. The first batch was ordered on the 28th of February 1961, and these early examples were fitted with steam heating equipment, allowing them to work with coaches designed for steam locos. This equipment would eventually be phased out of the class to make way for more modern systems. The Class 47s remained in service for an enormous number of years. The first withdrawals didn't begin until the late 1980s, and even these were some of the earliest built. Today, 76 47s still exist, many of which are under preservation with mainline running certificates. 33 Class 47s were converted into Class 57s, and astonishingly, these are still in service to this day. So here it is, up close and personal for you. My first Railroad Plus locomotive, the Class 47, and the results are in. And I can say that yes, this is a meaningful upgrade over previous Hornby Railroad locomotives. The level of detail is obviously not changed, and that was as expected, but the decoration does really elevate the quality of this model. So here comes an old Hornby Class 47, and I should note that these are not the same models. This is an actual Hornby Class 47. This new loco that I've got is actually the Lima Class 47, and when Hornby acquired Lima, they presumably looked at both of these locos and thought actually Lima's was 10 times better than ours, which is true, it is, and then they ditched their Class 47 and went into production with the Lima one for future railroad locos. So they are different in their moulding, but it's the decoration that I'm concerned with, and you can quite easily tell at a glance that the decoration on this loco is far more finessed and far more complex, which is really great to see. And I mean that, it really is great to see, because I'm always saying that this industry needs some affordable locos that people who don't care too much about absolute accuracy and features and everything can buy, so that they can at least get some trains to enjoy. Maybe people don't care about the level of detail, maybe people can't afford to pay for the level of detail. And here we have a loco, and a range in fact of locos, that is consistently less than £100, in this case significantly less than £100, which makes them very, very affordable. Now, do I particularly like these models? No, not really, and I think that's fine to say. They are not for me. I have to admit that I have become a loco snob. I've had a taste of the heavy, high-quality locos with masses of detail, and I do prefer those, and I think that's fine. There will be people who do prefer those models, and for those, this will not be for them. But it's important to have the choice, and products like this give us that choice. So we're going to look closely at the level of detail and the decoration in just a second. First of all though, let's talk about the weight, because unfortunately this is a very plasticky loco. It's cheap for a reason. It's got a plastic body with limited detail, plastic chassis as well. It weighs in at just 247 grams, which is crazy because the Bachmann 08 shunter is actually considerably heavier than that. And then if we compare that to a Class 47 from Bachmann, this is the new one, this weighs in at 597 grams, which is considerably more than double the weight. So that is something to bear in mind. Let's take a closer look at the decoration on this Railroad Plus loco though. The finish is okay. I think we have seen better finishes on other locos, but it's certainly an improvement on the past. You've got the double arrows here, which look good. They don't look that great up close because there's quite a visible fingerprint. It looks like someone's blobbed their finger in it before it was dry. That's unfortunate. But the running number on the side and the little information panel below that looks absolutely fine. You've got the little, is it a corgi or something? But that is a beautifully printed logo, and then you've got the name Galloway Princess. And like I say, the quality of the paint is not that great elsewhere. Yeah, look at this. It's not quite what you'd expect on a high-spec loco, so there is a way to go by all means. But generally it looks okay, and look at the moulded detail on the roof. This is why Lima was better than Hornby. Look at this, incredible, and that level of moulded detail combined with the improved decoration and these little cabinet doors picked out really helps this to look very impressive. It's really not that far off the look of the new Bachmann one. Obviously, under closer inspection, it's miles off, but at a glance, it certainly doesn't look too bad. You've got the yellow ends of the loco, of course, and the join between the two colours really isn't too bad. And the ends look quite good as well. You've got the high voltage warning signs, the handrails have been picked out, same with the cab doors as well. These are all just part of the moulding, I think, but they look pretty good, I think, carefully decorated. You've got the area where the lights are, which has been painted black, and there are even lenses where the lights should be. Pretty sure this loco doesn't have lights, but if it does have them, that will be really great to see. The buffer beams are very simple though, very little detail on here with no extra detail to fit. And of course the buffers are just plastic and not sprung. That's pretty much to be expected. This is weird as well. Look, we've got this large wide tension lock coupling, yet the couplings are NEM. So why have these large couplings been inserted? That's very bizarre. I guess it's because there is quite a bit of Hornby Railroad rolling stock which still has the wider couplings. But come on, why don't they just standardise all of the couplings in Hornby's range? Then everything is going to be more compatible. Anyway, the cabs are not too bad. There is an actual interior. No painted detail, of course, inside here, so it is the exterior of the loco where the improvements stop. But you could fit some drivers or something in there if you wanted. And you've got the wipers, which are just moulded into the windscreen and then painted. I'll give you a quick look at the rest of the loco. Obviously no separately fitted grills or anything like that, although we do have the glazed pieces which show us into the engine room, although there is no detail inside there. Bogie detail, very simple, just moulded detail here, but it looks fine. Again, the Lima moulding was always good, and the underframe detail is decent, if not super complex as well. So in summary, we've got a very light plasticky loco with an incredibly basic level of detail and an absolute minimum of separately fitted parts. However, the decoration has been massively upgraded so that from any sort of distance the loco looks a lot more convincing than it otherwise would have done. And I think this makes it a little bit more tempting to the casual modeler, and yet it's still affordable enough so that young people with a bit of saving, I suppose, would still be able to afford this. So overall, while the model is not for me, I will give this a thumbs up, provided the loco runs and works properly. So let's get it down onto the track. I will show you the mechanism, although I'm pretty sure it will be the same as the mechanism we see in every Hornby Railroad loco, although I'm hoping to be proved wrong, not expecting it though. And of course, I will also test how this loco hauls a load. So let's get started. So there she is, the Railroad Plus Class 47 down onto the track. And I must say, from a distance, simple as this model is, it does almost look like a more premium model. And of course, provided it runs nice and smoothly without juddering along, this loco might just get away with that illusion. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about performance and mechanism. The first test has already been filmed, and I'll show you how that went in just a second. First though, let's talk about the mechanism, and I must say I'm not impressed with this. On the one hand, I think it's a cheap loco and it will probably do the job. On the other hand, I think, yes, it's a cheap loco, but does the mechanism really need to be this cheap and nasty? Well, please do comment down below and let me know. First of all though, on the good side, there is all-wheel pickup on this loco, which is quite impressive. So you've got 6 wheels picking up from each rail. However, it is not all-wheel drive. In fact, the front bogie does not have a single driven axle on it. These are just freewheelers. And so the driven bogie has rubber traction tyres on its wheels to compensate for this. And you can see that these tyres have started to corrode already. There are sort of micro cracks starting to appear. Even then, not all of the wheels on this bogie are driven. The centre ones are still free to turn. So this loco has 6 axles, only 2 of them are driven. That's pretty naff, isn't it? In terms of serviceability, there are no screws on the bottom of the bogies, so in order to get access to this for cleaning and maintenance, you have to overcome these clips somehow. And the clips are positioned in such a way that it's impossible really to get to them. So in the end, I resorted to brute force to get the base off, which did work, but how many times can you really do that? How many times can you yank that base off before those clips start to fail? I'm not too sure. Anyway, no proper bearings on the axles as you might expect, and the bogie chassis are just made of plastic. So the body removal is quite interesting. You have to pull out all of the buffers, which is kind of an old staple of the Lima models. However, having done that, the body was still stuck, and I tried with my nails and fingers to get it off, but I've slit my fingers open on these railroad bodies before. So before I did that again, I got my glue spreaders and used those to get the body off. Alas, there was nothing really worth seeing inside the loco. The chassis is made of plastic with a metal weight in the centre to try and compensate for that, and there's a bit of a speaker housing on there as well. This is the basic motor bogie, which is a kind of one-piece solution, and that is all the mechanism is. Usually these contain a 5-pole motor without a flywheel, and also usually they're not even worth accessing because they're clipped together, and again you risk damaging those clips by trying to open it. It does look on this occasion as though this is held together with screws though, which is an improvement, so hopefully when the time does come to service this, that will be a little bit easier. And then you've got just an 8-pin DCC socket with plenty of room for a decoder. Still though, it's just an 8-pin socket, so you're quite limited to which decoders are compatible. So not a very good mechanism. I would say every possible corner has been cut, and while the loco may run well, it is a far cry from more premium models, even ones from Hornby. So with that, let me show you how that first performance test went. Right, moment of truth then. It's fine for some models to have the level of detail cut down to make them more affordable, but regardless of how much a model costs, it should run well. So the big question is, does this one? Let's find out. Forwards direction. Let's see if there's any life in this. Let's go. Oh yeah, started off quite nicely actually. And yeah, these railroad mechanisms, they are simple. They're very bare bones. I don't know how long they're going to last. I certainly wouldn't expect them to last as long as a proper high quality metal based system as we see on Bachmann and Acura scale locos. But say what you like about the quality and the longevity, this is running nicely. It's good and smooth. it's quiet, actually. That's not always the case with these, but it certainly is. And it doesn't seem to be cutting out or hesitating over the point either, which is really good to see. Now, unfortunately, there are no lights by the looks of things. I had dared to hope that there would be, given those lenses on the ends, but alas not. Again, no lights were promised. That's fair enough. Again, there's a reason why these Railroad Plus locos are cheaper, and that's because the level of detail and the number of features has been significantly cut down, so definitely no lights. But yeah, it seems to be alright. What's the gearing like? Class 47, reasonably speedy things. Let's have a look. Oh, that was 50%. Alright, very speedy. Dare I ask what the full speed of this model is like? Let's have a look at that. Good lord. Okay, so maybe the gearing's not astonishingly good, but that won't matter if the loco's capable of a good crawl. So is it? Let's see. Get right down and turn this up gradually, and let's have a look. I'm still turning up. I'm still turning up. Oh, a bit of a jump there. Big jump too. Turning up a bit more. Alright. Jerking forwards intermittently. Certainly not a smooth motion. There we go. So, not impressive from a crawl perspective. But at least it runs well at the higher speeds. Can't really fault that. But I would say that the gearing is a little bit daft. This thing really flies along at medium speed, yes, and obviously full speed as well. If it had been geared down a little bit, we would have lost some of that insane speed, and it would have definitely crawled better because there would have been more torque there. Having said that, it is marvellously smooth even at this speed. Look at that. Yeah, it's a smooth motion, very much so. So yeah, it's looking okay. Obviously the crawl could improve after this has run in, because that was its first ever run. It hasn't been run in yet. So I think next I'm going to send this off around the track at 50% speed. Don't think that'll be fast enough for it to throw itself off, so that should be fine. Let's see how it gets on. Okay, here we go. Alright, so straight out of the box, she's a fast girl, that's for sure. Yeah, that's unbelievably quick at half speed. In fact, I believe if I turn this up to full, it would throw itself off the track. I will test that for you, I suppose, just to see if I'm correct. But yeah, it does seem unnecessarily fast. I don't know whether this is aimed at more of a sort of kiddie market, dare I say it, because they're the sort of people who would appreciate this speed. Anybody else is probably just going to wish their loco could crawl, frankly, but you know, maybe it will improve as it warms up. I have seen that on a handful of occasions, so we will see. Don't go anywhere then. I'll be back in an hour after this loco has fully run in. And let's throw it off the track at high speed. Yep, it is fast enough to throw itself off the track. Oh dear. Let's try and get that a bit better. Yeah, there we go. Well, yeah, premium models can't do that sort of thing. They tend to be geared better, and they're also better balanced. So yeah, I guess that gives you some idea of who this model is aimed at. Anyway, let's keep running it in. Blimey, I'm back. And yeah, that was quite the emergency stop, wasn't it? Of course, the traction ties do that when they grip the rails as soon as the wheels stop turning. But yeah, that went fine. There was no derailing or anything. I didn't even notice any slowing down, although obviously the loco was going so fast it would have been quite difficult to notice any slowing down anyway. So there you have it. Let's find out then whether the crawl is any better than it was. Is it? No. Kind of jerking along, occasionally struggling as well. Yeah, very coggy. Doesn't seem as though this is going to have a flywheel, does it? Other direction, any better? Give it a bit more. No, not particularly slow, and certainly not particularly smooth. In fact, I'm going to have to give it a bit more. It's literally shaking itself along. You can hear it juddering. Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, not a great runner, unfortunately. Perfectly okay at the higher speeds, though. Let's demonstrate that. Yeah, it sort of overcomes its juddering, but yeah, you can tell that it's not a premium model, and that's fine because it is cheap enough. So there's that. Obviously it's got rubber traction tyres, so the lightweight doesn't matter too much. It comes in at 0.52 newtons of tractive effort, which is around 31 coaches on straight and level track. Although should those traction tyres corrode or begin to slip on the wheels, then yeah, obviously that will be massively diminished. But to see what it's like with a load, I have set up these coaches. These are ex-Gresley coaches, I believe, and there are 6 of those, so it should be a decent test of this loco's abilities. Let's couple up and see how those couplings function. Let's try and do this steadily. Slight discrepancy between which couplings the loco has and the coaches, so hopefully there won't be any issues with that. Let's find out. Forwards. Yeah, they did couple correctly actually, which is pretty good. So let's speed this up a bit to about 35. And then on the middle line, I have the Bachmann Class 47, which was new tooled a couple of years ago. And needless to say, yeah, it is a massive improvement over this. However, between them, this Bachmann 47 and the Railroad Plus one, they cover a really good spectrum, don't they? You can either go for a very expensive Bachmann one, which will cost you £200 or thereabouts, and you get all the features and details you want, or you can go with a Hornby and save a lot of money and just get a basic loco that will do the job. It is lovely to have the choice, I think. And then on the inside line, we have my old Railroad Class 47, which I've always felt was a bit too much like a toy. This new Railroad Plus one is a lot better than this. It's the lemur body, which is more detailed, and obviously the decoration is much better. So this one can go do one as far as I'm concerned, but I suppose it looks alright with a couple of virgin coaches. Alright, here she goes then with a load. And as you can see, around the curve, minimal slowdown, which is quite impressive because this Bachmann 47 really struggled during its review up Gordon's Hill. So while the Bachmann is the better of the two performers, the torque in the mechanism is a lot better in Hornby's, I would say. Now there are reasons for that. Obviously we have far fewer driven axles on the Hornby model, so it's a much simpler mechanism with less drag. It doesn't have the dual drive shafts, it doesn't have the dual flywheels, it doesn't have all the gears, yada yada yada. But at the end of the day, it does run with a bit more oomph to it than the Bachmann one does. And I'm going to emphasise that because there is no other aspect of this model which could possibly rival Bachmann's, so that is one thing I will say. Other than that though, clearly this loco is nothing special, it's not particularly exciting, it's not particularly impressive, but what it does do is exactly what it says on the tin. It's an inexpensive loco which looks okay, it's built okay, and it runs okay. And the fact that you can get that for less than £100 today, significantly less if you look in the right places, is a refreshing change. Now obviously it's not going to be a substitute for a Bachmann Class 47. Those are more expensive for a reason, and therefore this is not a bargain in comparison. Obviously you don't get much for your money here because frankly you're not paying all that much. So you have to be very clear on what you expect. Railroad Plus does not mean that this has any mechanical or detail improvements. It literally just is an improved paint job, which to be fair does make a big difference, I think. Particularly from a distance, this Railroad Plus loco looks a lot better than I've seen previous Railroad Class 47s look. So there is that. Yeah, overall, like I say, it does what it's supposed to do on the tin. It does so without a flare, without a flourish, but it looks absolutely fine. Let's have some ratings then for the Hornby Railroad Plus Class 47. The level of detail, as much as I hate to say it, is definitely a 2-star for me. It is lacking lights, it relies almost entirely on moulded detail, it has no painted cab, no etched grills or nameplates, and a generally low level of detail. The decoration though is very good, and the 2 stars it does get come almost entirely from that. The performance is better than the level of detail, though not incredible. It must be said, at the higher speeds the loco is nice and smooth and decently powerful, easily handling the coaches as you can see, but at the lower speeds it becomes very juddery, low on torque, and generally the gearing of the model doesn't make an awful lot of sense, meaning that it's too fast at the high speed to the point where it's actually capable of throwing itself off of third radius curves, and also to the point where it can't sustain a smooth run at the lower end as well. The pulling power though is absolutely fine. It's a very light loco, but it does have rubber traction tyres, which I do not like, but they do mean that the loco is decently powerful. So 0.52 newtons or 31 coaches. That is of course less than the Bachmann Class 47, even though that loco doesn't have rubber tyres though. The mechanism has to be a 1-star for me. I guess things have moved on quite a bit since the last time I reviewed a Hornby Railroad loco, and this does not look that great to me. You've got the gearing, which isn't very good. You've only got 2 out of 6 axles driven. You've got traction tyres, you've got clips holding the bogies together. No proper bearings on the axles, and it doesn't even have the standard NEM tension locks. It's got a slightly wider version of them. Yeah, there's nothing really to praise on the mechanism. I guess the 5-pole motor is where the 1-star comes from. Other than that though, there's nothing really positive that I can say. The quality is a 3-star. To be fair, it is put together quite nicely. That's partly because there is no separate detail to be applied badly or otherwise, but that has to count for something. It is, however, a very plasticky model, and even though the quality of the paint generally is quite high, there are areas of the model which don't look that great, where there's paint bleed and visible fingerprints, etc. Value for money though is where this loco shines a little bit more. At £96.99 full price RRP, this is not a super expensive model. I don't think it's a bargain at that price, because obviously the low price is very much reflected in the low level of features in the loco, but that's fair enough. I would give that 4-star. I paid £66 for this though. That's less than 70. That has to be 5-star. It's a simple loco with a price tag to match, so I've split the difference and given it 4.5 on value. Overall then, it is 5.65 out of 10, or a grade of E. Unfortunately, compared with the newer, more detailed, higher quality locos, this doesn't stand up too much, but if you can't afford those, this is probably one to look at if you're desperate to own a Class 47. So actually folks, I think the Railroad Plus range is a good middle ground between railway range and railroad range. And in fact, it could be a good solution to the problem I mentioned at the start, where Hornby were blurring the boundaries between the two ranges. Yeah, if they want to make a model seem a little bit more premium now, even though it really just belongs in the railroad range, well, they could put it in the Railroad Plus range to signify that it has some improvements without misleading people by putting it into the main railways range. That seems to be what they're sort of doing with this stuff, and I have to applaud them for that, because yeah, it's less misleading. It's more clear what customers are actually getting when they invest £100 or so in one of these locos. So now you know. Please comment down below, let me know what you think. Have you tried any of the Railroad Plus range? Which one looks the best in your opinion? And what do you think of this loco? I'd be interested to hear. For now though, thank you very much for tuning in, and I will see you again very, very soon for another video. Alright, cheers folks, you take care.